you have most recently released, I believe it's your 10th solo album. I'm making sure it's the 10th. I'm
Yes.
counting it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. Tell us about your latest project, and more importantly, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, guys, for having me. This project is one that I really was not anticipating. However, we did it, turned it around in a 2 week span. Worked very hard, very quick, very hard, and um, really, when I work under that kind of pressure, that's kind of when the best stuff comes out because you have no time to screw it up. You got to get it right, or So I'll say, along with Candace Bazemore, Teak Underdew, Walter Millsap, and quite a few other producers, we churned out some really dope songs that make for a very consistent album. So I'm in a good place with this project.
Oh, good for you. But I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You turned it around in 2 weeks. How
In
does
two
that
weeks.
happen? How do you turn it into? And I could imagine you have a bevy of songs, or you've written so much. I know that it might
No,
just come
every
naturally.
song that you hear is what we worked on. Maybe two didn't make the project because we just ran out of time and couldn't finish them. But we had exactly 2 weeks. My manager flew in town. We were in the studio for umpteen hours doing one, two songs a night sometimes just to finish the album in 2 weeks. So it was a flat 2 weeks.
Wow, that's impressive. But you have very much created a name for yourself in terms of who you've worked with in this industry. You've written, you've been an actor, you've had your solo projects. You were a part of, from my understanding, the very first hip hop. R&B group in sequence signed to Sugar Hill. So tell me, if you don't mind, just go back to the genesis of it all. Tell me about Sequence and how that all came about.
A sequence is myself, my partner Blondie, and Shirley Pearl. We were all high school friends and neighborhood sisters that hung out together. Ended up going to clubs, parties. We were cheerleaders. Did a lot of things together, and as a result of hanging out with your besties on a regular basis, we started to create this stuff because as cheerleaders, we were constantly writing rhymes and what was affectionately known as cheers back then turned into rap music. I guess New York call it rap, we call it cheers and competition.
Mhm.
And we won quite a few contests in South Carolina for having the best cheers. Our cheers were rhyme-o-matic pretty much. Funk You Up was a song that we created that had a hook, which was a melodic chorus, and we add individual raps to it, which coined the phrase, y'all can say R&B, hip hop, or however you want to call it, but we added singing to hip hop, and as a result, it changed the narrative overall. So as a result, I believe that hip hop grew wings and went to the next generation as something that was getting stronger, growing bigger, and spreading broader. And as a result, um, is what you have today. So it's all often a lot of controversy on who was the first to do what. But I think that
Mhm.
everybody had a first moment in their life, in their career. We just happen to be the only female hip hop group that had an original rap record at the time that came out and set the tone for most of the uh, R&B ladies that followed.
You said it was a cheer, and any black girl knows, like, you've been like, when you cheer, I never ever thought, because I was a cheerleader, especially for Pop Warner, I would have never considered it rap, but that's exactly what it was. It was
It was
rap.
a
Like you.
cheer. Funk You Up was a cheer that went, we're going to blow you right on out. We're going to blow you right on up. Get up, get up, get up, get up, sit back down. It was a cheer. And then we said, funk you right on up. We're going to funk you right on up. That turned into a song. Parliament Funkadelic was happened to be the hottest group at the time. And the word funk was boogie and funk. Those were the words back in the day. So we used funk you up.
I love it. I love it all. And then outside of that, that's establishing yourself in a world where you are a pioneer. People are respecting your voice, your sound. I'd like to know, more about the writing of it, because I've read in my research that you felt like writing and acting and poetry was your first love, and
Yeah, that
singing
was
was
something
second.
that, well, as an English major, I loved English. I used to write poems and rhymes. I think we all did. Part of who we became as hip hoppers is you had to be able to write your rhymes and all of that. That was something that we did at Sugar Hill Records. We, as a group, when we went there, we started to coin songs for the Sugar Hill Gang, for the Sequence, for the West Street Mob. A lot of what you hear from that early days of hip hop. A lot of it was written by the Sequence, Apache, Eighth Wonder, and West Street's Mob, Let's Dance. All those songs were coined by Blondie Shirley and myself.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. And you say it so matter of factly, like you like, yeah, just tomorrow, but that is powerful. If you look at the industry today, do you see your influence still?
Well, when I look at the industry, I see definitely see our influence. When Lauren Hill came about, that was the greatest compliment that we could have gotten because she took she took the Roberta Flack song and she fused it with hip hop, and she took the actual body of hip hop and singing and married them together to make one of the greatest rap records ever made by a female. And that was following the trend that we had already set.
Yeah, Lauren, and shout out to Lauren Hill, who performed most recently at the Roots Picnic. It was a beautiful reunion. One of the legends of our time, and a voice that narrates many of our lifestyles.
Yeah.
You also, like, let me tell you about Brown Sugar. I want to know. I want to know all that you wrote with D'Angelo, because Brown Sugar, I remember it changing the game. You know what I mean? Like, for everybody. I was like, well, what is this we're listening to? I remember a bunch of me and my girlfriends jumped into a car and tried to go down to the local radio station to meet D'Angelo, because this music was so soulful. It spoke to our spirit. And I'm like, oh, my girl wrote, as if we're best friends,
It's so
songs
funny
here.
because D'Angelo, just a credit to himself, his brother Luther Archer, and D'Angelo was primarily responsible for writing a lot of Brown Sugar. As a matter of fact, when I met D'Angelo, I was infused with that whole vibe because we were excited to work with each other. I ended up writing Jones in My Bones on that first album.
Mhm.
So every day was a song that I wrote. Die was a song that I wrote with him. More importantly, I got to work very closely with him in the studio when he was producing Cruising. When we get by, songs that would embody a presence, an energy, a vibe. We went on to do the next album, and I did. Spanish Joint. I did A Great Day in the Morning. I did Africa. I did Send It On. These are the songs that I was writing with him when he started to evolve and people started to look for what was next. We grew up, Great Day in the Morning, like I said, we went on to do Player for the cartoon soundtrack with Michael Jordan, with Bugs Bunny and all of them. I mean, it was just a plethora of opportunities to do stuff, and it was hard to do Vertical Hole, which was my group, D'Angelo, and whatever else they had for me slated to do. I was spreading myself pretty thin. I had worked on Panther. I had worked with Usher and Monica on Let's Straighten It Out on the Panther soundtrack. So I was kind of being pulled to and fro at a time when, music was evolving in a whole nother way. And I'm just grateful that I was factored into that whole neo soul vibe. But I have to give credit where credit is due. Luther Archer and D'Angelo, who are brothers, they did the soundtrack of Jason's lyric, You Will Know.
Mhm.
We came right behind that and did Freedom for the Joy with the girls, all the women. So, I was part of that whole movement. And Raphael Sadiq, there was a handful of us that kind of played in that playground together. So, but it's safe to say D'Angelo was pretty formed and well shaped. By the time I met him, I would only enhance what he was already doing.